Hello, welcome to KENSHOQUEST. I'm Heidi.
I'm George.
Here on KENSHOQUEST, we share tips to help you plan an amazing trip to Japan. We've visited Japan together many times over the past 20 years, and he was going to Japan even before that. Today we're going to try to keep this Q&A to about an hour long. If we don't get to your question, you can always leave your question as a comment on one of our videos, and we'll try to get back to you. For now, anybody who's joining us live, please leave your questions in the chat box.
And we'll just get started right away. So we will start with questions that we got ahead of time. This one is from RJ Cav. Good morning or good evening, wherever you guys are in the world. So the question is, we will be traveling from Sapporo to Niseko Hilton in early July. Where is the best place to rent a car for 4 people with 4 carry-on luggage? The Sapporo train station, 5 nights, hotel in Hokkaido. So yes, right next to the Hokkaido, right next to Sapporo station, there are several rental car agencies, including the big names such as, I believe, well, let me just show you.
I think Budget.
Yeah.
If you go to Google Maps and you search rental car Sapporo, Japan, quite a few options pop up, including there are rental cars from New Chitose Airport.
Yeah, you can rent them even in New Chitose, as well as right next to Sapporo Station, which might be better for you if you're already staying in Sapporo. So the key is, well, as you can see, there's a lot of them here. We've rented from Toyota Rental Car as well as from Oryx, and the service has been really good. But you can also rent from these other ones, as you can see, as well. And we've never had an issue with anybody speaking at least a little bit of English. The most important thing you want to take into consideration is to rent this as far in advance as possible, because they tend to sell out really quickly, especially in Hokkaido in the summertime. And if you have 4 people and 4 pieces of luggage, you might want a van, and those rent out the fastest of all the cars. Usually all what's left are the smaller cars. So again, rent as far as possible. Rent as far in advance as possible. And also 2 really important things is make sure you have an international driver permit that is accepted by Japan. So depending on which country you're from, you want to check with that and make sure that it works with Japan. What was the other thing?
If you're from the USA, that would be the international driving permit that you can get at AAA. Just go there before your trip and make sure you pick that up and bring that along with your driver's license.
And you will also need your passport. So those are the 2 things you want to absolutely make sure you have.
Driver's license, international driving permit, and passport.
Correct, yeah.
When you go to rent your car.
All right, let's move on to the next question, which is from Nehal. Good morning, or again, good evening. Hi, long-term students in Japan can't get the JR Pass, but can buy the Willer Bus Pass, 357 or 7 days. Are there any other bus companies who offer pass discounts to international students and options for trains? So this is kind of difficult because most do not. However, there is something called the Seishun 18. I don't know if you've heard of it, but what it does is it allows the basically anybody who doesn't have a Japanese passport to ride on the Seishun 18 train, which is a local train that goes all over Japan. The main issue with that is they recently, as of 2025, they kind of made it not as good as it was before. But they have different versions of the pass, and I highly recommend you check that out because that is a good, cheap option for students to travel across Japan. Again, it's called the Seishun 18. Maybe we can drop that into the chat.
Do you have it? So those would be on slower local trains that wouldn't be riding with the fast bullet trains.
Yeah, so do you want me to put that in? Let me just add this in here real quick.
And can you guys let us know if you can hear us okay, if the volume is fine? Just put in the chat box, I can hear you.
All right, this next question is from D. Thanks so much for videos. You mentioned credit cards with no foreign transaction fees. Could you list a few?
We use Chase Sapphire Preferred. We actually have a couple different Chase credit cards. We like to use those because then we earn points that we can then use to get flights.
Also, the cards by, I'm drawing a blank now.
And separately for our debit card that we use at the ATM, we have a Charles Schwab checking account, investor checking account, and that debit card reimburses any ATM fees charged by the ATM. So for checking, Charles Schwab, and then for our credit card, Chase Sapphire.
And they both work great.
Yeah, you want to check ahead of time if your bank charges any fees for using a debit card in foreign countries, if your credit card charges any foreign transaction fees, because you don't want to find out after your trip that you're getting hit with all these additional fees.
Okay, next question, again, is also from D. Do the Suica and Pasmo cards work across Japan in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagano, and Kyoto?
So I didn't hear it was there.
Oh, Do the Suica Pasmo cards work across Japan in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagano, and Kyoto?
Yes, so as long as you get one of the major 10 IC cards that includes things like Suica and Pasmo, then anywhere that those major 10 cards are accepted, any of the 10 will be accepted. So that's most of Japan. However, down south, is it
Yes,
Kumamoto?
in south from Kumamoto on down south, they have implemented their own new system there. We'll be there very soon, so we're going to verify this, but we've already been told by some people that, yeah, those cards are no longer accepted in the area, and hopefully the new system's in place. We will have a follow-up video on that once we check that out to be sure about that.
But specifically your question, yes, Suica and Pasmo would work in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagano, and Kyoto. So you only need to get one IC card for your trip, either a physical plastic one or a digital one if you have an iPhone, and each person needs to have their own separate IC card. You cannot share an IC card among people if you're trying to use it for transportation.
All right, next question is from P0LARB721. Will there be new visitor form to fill out for our trip to Japan in October? We don't know for sure. There's been a lot of talk about JESTA implementing a new protocol similar to what's being done in the United States. However, as of now, that is not the case. Right now, we recommend that you do go to the Visit Japan website and fill out the forms ahead of time, because right now the entry time when people are arriving at immigration is taking way longer than it used to, like double, even triple as long, especially if you arrive, let's say, in the evening busy times. It's just been really, really busy. So to save yourself some time, especially if you're going to make a connecting flight or if you need to catch a train right away, is go to Visit Japan Web and complete all the forms ahead of time there.
I already left a link to Visit Japan Web in the description box below this video. And if you go through the whole process, you will end up with one QR code per person. So you show those QR codes to the immigration officer. You can screenshot them in case you don't have internet access at the airport. And then by showing the QR code to the officer, it just speeds it up. So you'll need to know things like your flight number and date, and the address of your first hotel, and your passport information. And I recommend completing Visit Japan Web about 2 to 3 days before your flight, just to make sure it has time to process before you arrive. And that will help speed up the immigration.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the chats to show up in here.
Okay, going down. The next question that came in. Okay, I'll be in Osaka, Kyoto, Nara, Kobe, Mount Fuji, and Tokyo next month, and really struggling with transportation. What passes do we need? Should we get? It's for them and 2 kids who are teenagers. Okay, so there's always a lot of confusion about whether people need a transportation pass. In the past, a lot of people would get the whole Japan Rail Pass or JR Pass because it was a really good deal if you were going even just from Tokyo to Kyoto, Osaka, and back to Tokyo. However, the price of the JR Pass has gone way up, and so it's no longer beneficial to get it for that golden route, Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo. So now, if you're going to be exploring a certain region of Japan, you might want to get a regional pass. But for most people who are just going to explore one city or maybe 2 cities, you really don't need a train pass. You can use an IC card for local transportation within a city, or for instance, in Tokyo, they also have a metro subway pass, which is a good deal if you just want transportation for 2 or 3 days on the metro and subway lines. And then when you want to get from one city to the next, for instance, if you're going from Tokyo to Shin, Osaka, you can buy an individual single journey Shinkansen ticket, and we have videos explaining all the details of how to buy those tickets. So you don't always need to get some sort of train pass. So for this instance, Osaka, Kyoto, Nara, Kobe, those are all, you don't really need a pass for that. And then Mount Fuji is like a side trip from Tokyo. So in that case, I would say you probably don't need to buy any specific pass. When you want to go between Osaka or Kyoto and Tokyo, just buy a single journey Shinkansen ticket. And then when you want to go to Mount Fuji, that's a good side trip to take from Tokyo to Fuji and back. And we do have a video on how to get to Mount Fuji. You can either do it by a highway bus, which is the fastest and less expensive option, or we really like trains, so we like to take the Fuji Excursion Limited Express train from Shinjuku to Kawagochiko and then back again. That takes slightly longer and it's about twice as expensive. But we do have a video dedicated to how to get to Mount Fuji.
Okay, the next question is from Highlander. Thank you for your time. Have you a question on driving experience in Tokyo? My assumption is you're asking is if we have driving experience in Tokyo. We personally have never driven in Tokyo, and that's just because we'd rather not. And the main reason is not because it's crazy, but the main issue is because lack of parking. It's really hard to find parking spaces. And then when you do, if you're actually in the city, the price can be quite high. So because of that, we avoid it as much as possible. We prefer to drive outside of the city in places like in Hokkaido, or we'll even drive even in the Osaka area or in Kanazawa, places that are easier for us to drive just because parking is so expensive and it can be hard to find a parking spot. But we do know, excuse me, we have a friend who hasn't, first time in Tokyo just last week, rented a car and drove around. And he was fine. So it can certainly be done.
For us, it's more that there is such good public transportation in Japan that whenever the trains and public transportation are an option, we opt for that. And so it's only when we get out into more remote areas or we want to go on an RV camping trip, then we rent a vehicle. But we usually don't need to because we can usually get around by train or bus.
Yeah, that's so true. In most places, you can walk to where you need to be within 10 minutes or less. Okay.
Okay, so the next is, how bad is the rain weather in Japan, Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto in June? Can we get away with just wearing rain jackets? Or is it really advisable to pack and use umbrellas? Mosquitoes in June. Okay, yes, June is maybe one of the worst weather months in Japan. It's going to rain, it can be really hot, muggy, humid. So if you're not used to the humidity, it can feel a lot hotter than it is. If you have a really lightweight packable rain jacket, you might want to bring it. But for us, sometimes it's so hot and muggy that we don't even want to wear a rain jacket. If you don't want to pack an umbrella, they sell excellent umbrellas in Japan. I really like to get the one that's a combo umbrella parasol that also blocks the UV light because it might be pouring rain one day and it might be bright sun another day. So it's nice for sun protection. Also the clear umbrellas, they sell those at all the 7-Elevens. Hotels usually have umbrellas that you can borrow for the day. So if you don't want to be like stuffy in an uncomfortable rain jacket, you can buy or borrow an umbrella once you get to Japan. Mosquitoes, yes, be prepared for mosquitoes. They can be really bad in Japan. Something about them, we react to them more.
Especially once you start visiting the larger parks, they're going to be swarming everywhere.
I have a video that's specifically a summer packing list for Japan. I will drop a link to that in the description box right now. Okay, I just added that summer packing list.
To answer more of Highlander's question here about renting a car, is it doable to go to Izu Panorama Park, spend about an hour there and back to Hakone, spend 3-4 hours and back to... Yes, it is doable in a day. However, I would choose your days wisely and definitely not do it on a weekend because you could just be stuck in traffic the whole day, and that's just not going to be fun. And just make sure it's also not a holiday because on both of those, you're going to spend the majority of your time just stuck in traffic.
And now we have a question. Can you recommend hotels in Tokyo? Also, do you think it's a good advice to do 2 or 3 hotels in different Tokyo locations? So it depends. I think if you're staying for about a week or less, then I would recommend only doing 1 hotel in Tokyo just to not have the hassle of checking out, moving your luggage to another hotel, and then check-in time is later in the afternoon. If you're staying more than a week, like 10 days, you might want to break it up over a couple areas in Japan. And we have a couple videos that can help with this. We have a video of where to stay in Tokyo that explains the different neighborhoods, and then also our ultimate Tokyo itinerary video. We give a few specific recommendations for that. And we have worked multiple times with Expedia. So we have what's called an Expedia travel shop. And in that shop, we've organized all of our different hotel recommendations. So I think you've put them by neighborhood for Tokyo. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so in our Expedia shop, it's Expedia/KENSHOQUEST. Well, actually, Expedia/shops/KENSHOQUEST.
I'll link to it.
Yeah, anyways,
I'll put the link.
We've broken them down by neighborhoods all over Japan. We haven't covered everywhere yet, but as we go, we're adding more. And we're changing them too because based on the feedback that we get from our viewers, what type of accommodations people are looking for. So if there's a particular type of accommodation that you're looking for and we don't have it, let us know, and then we can go ahead and add it in there. Or even just let us know right now what type of accommodation you're looking for, and we might be able to give you some suggestions.
Which was the one that we stayed in Shinjuku?
So we stayed at the KO Plaza Hotel in Shinjuku, and it's definitely one of our favorite hotels in probably our favorite hotel in Tokyo, actually, because of the location alone. It's just fantastic. That hotel, it faces, if you ask for a room facing the government building, you can watch their LED display show at night right from your window, which is just phenomenally amazing. So there's a new show, if you're not aware of it, in the city of Shinjuku, they implemented a new light show, LED light show that displays on the government building from I think 7:30 until about 9:30 at night, like in half-hour intervals. And it's quite amazing. It's the largest one in the world. So it's quite a show to see, and it's free. So anybody can go out and they can just watch it from in front of the building as well. But if you have a room facing it, even better.
If it's your first time to Tokyo, I do highly recommend the Shinjuku area because you'll both be able to access places within Tokyo, the tourist areas, but also Shinjuku is the perfect place to stay right before you want to take a day trip or an overnight trip away from Tokyo. So if you're going to Mount Fuji or if you're going to Hakone, other popular day trips, often both the buses and the trains depart from Shinjuku Station. So at least the portion of your trip right before you take a day trip or side trip, if you have a Shinjuku hotel, that will be perfect for you to be able to get on your transportation in the morning. We also like the Asakusa area of Tokyo, but that's a little bit farther out. It's a quieter area. You'll be able to visit things like Sensoji Temple and Tokyo Skytree. But then when you want to go to another part of Tokyo, like Shinjuku or Ginza, you're going to have a bit longer on transportation. So it's not as convenient to access things.
Okay, so this next one is from Ty. We are going to Snowwall and Blue Cave. Should we buy tickets beforehand, or can we simply buy it at the Tateyama station or at CTS Airport? So we personally have not been there yet ourselves. However, those places are very, very, very busy. So I would highly recommend that you do buy it beforehand, just because Japan is a very orderly place where they like to buy things in advance and reserve things in advance. And if it's very popular with Japanese, it will sell out and it will be completely booked. So yes, please book in advance if you can.
In general, for Japan, if you have the option of booking in advance, it's a good idea to do so because you don't want to miss out, have something be full, and you can't do what you were planning to do.
From KDB, what are your opinions on weather in late September and in Tokyo and Nagoya area?
I'd say that's a pretty nice time of year. So fall is when the humidity starts to reduce. Also, Japan gets rain all throughout the year, but once you get past the August, September typhoon season, then you start getting a bit drier. So are we talking all September or late September?
Late September.
Yeah, late September. I think that may be entering like the ideal weather time in Japan. And then October, by the end of October, is when it really starts to cool off, heading towards winter. But I think you'll get the best weather probably in September.
Yeah. We're actually thinking about coming back in September just because of the good weather in late September.
Yeah, and then late October, November is when you'll get the really pretty fall leaves. September might be a little early for that still. It'll probably still be very green at that time. Okay.
Oops.
I have got JR Pass for my Japan trip this coming up. Is there a way to book tickets on Nozomi trains online? So I'm assuming that's Nozomi?
Nozomi, yeah.
Okay, so the JR Pass covers all the different Shinkansen lines in Japan. However, the services, the Nozomi service and the Mizuho, are not fully covered by the Japan Rail Pass. So if you have the JR Pass, meaning the whole Japan Rail Pass, and you want to ride on a Nozomi, you're going to have to pay an extra supplemental fee above the price of your pass. Personally, for us, we don't think it's worth doing that. We would just ride the next fastest. So what would be the next?
The next would be the Hikari, which is fully included. So I would say the main reason why you would want the Nozomi is if you are on a time crunch and you need to get from point A to point B within a certain time. Because with the JR Pass, even though it includes the Hikari, the Kodama, Shinkansens as well, depending on the region you are in, they aren't as frequent. Whereas the Nozomi during the daytime is like every 10 minutes, there's a Nozomi. So that would be a good reason why you would want to reserve it. However, with the Nozomi, you cannot reserve it until you get to Japan because you have to buy a supplementary ticket, as Heidi was just explaining. So,
and it's maybe going to be a 20-minute faster train depending on
Correct.
how far you're riding it.
Yes.
So personally for us, we would just use the trains that are fully included in the JR Pass and not bother paying extra for the Nozomi. If you're not using the JR Pass, then you might as well take the Nozomi because it barely
the
costs
price
any
difference is
extra.
very negligible. Yeah. So what was I trying to say to that? Yeah. If you are not in a time crunch and you are just trying to save 10, 20 minutes, then I would say it's absolutely not worth it. The train itself is exactly the same as the other ones. And the main reason why it's faster is because it just has less stops.
I'm going to add a video in the description. I just put in the chat box a video describing the different Shinkansen lines in Japan. So if you aren't familiar with all the different Shinkansen routes, you can watch that video.
Okay, hi, Summer Chi. Do we need the eSIM and pocket Wi-Fi or just one? We're traveling with family of 5. So
since you are a family of 5, that's when I do recommend having more than one option for your internet. The most common scenario I see where a pocket Wi-Fi can be an issue is if one person in the party has the pocket Wi-Fi and then somebody in your group gets lost from the rest of the group at the train station. Once they're out of range of the pocket Wi-Fi, if they're relying on that to be able to send messages to the rest of the family, they'll no longer have the internet access to contact the rest of the family. So what we do is, for instance, I always have an eSIM on my phone because I never want to be without that internet connection to use Google Maps to find my way home. But then also we have a pocket Wi-Fi that's more like for our kids to watch movies or do any of their online entertainment where they need more data, or also for us to be able to upload videos.
Yes.
If you're just one individual person and you have an eSIM compatible unlocked phone, then an eSIM for one individual is probably fine. It's when you need more data or you have more people that it's nice to have multiple options.
Yeah.
But you're the expert in this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Heidi answered it really well. So again, we like to have both just as security reasons. Again, the 2 reasons are mainly for our kids. And also the second reason is if you need a lot of data, which we do because we upload a lot of videos and photos up online. So if you're going to be doing a lot of that, then it's nice to have that extra so you don't run out or hit what's called a fair usage policy and get super slow. Do you need to go?
I'm just going to drop a link to data plans in Japan. George has a video that includes both
and we need to go
and pocket Wi-Fi.
We have some screaming kids, so just hang on. Our kids are arguing. Apologize for that. All right. Okay, good morning or good evening, Gerardo. What will be the most recommended length of days travel to Japan for the first time? That is a tough question. It really depends on what you want to see and do. So if you can give me a recommendation of what you're interested in seeing and doing, that would really help. But personally, we're long-term travelers. Whenever we are out, we travel for months at a time. And that's just because, first of all, since we're digital nomads, we can. But if you are traveling, let's say from the United States to Japan, I would think about the fact that when you arrive here, you're going to be jet lagged, and it's going to take, if you come for 2 weeks, it's going to take that whole 2 weeks almost to adjust, at least a week, So you need a couple of days to adjust. Otherwise, the first couple of days, you're going to be really groggy and, it can be hard to adjust. So because of that, we say try to stay longer if possible. I would say minimum 2 weeks, but the more, the better, just so you can also slow it down because there's just so much here to see and do, and everything takes way longer to do things than you think they will, especially transportation. Even if, you look on Google Maps, it says it's going to take you 15 minutes to get somewhere. It's probably going to take you twice that long because it doesn't take into consideration traffic, crossing streetlights, and the amount of people that you have to walk with as well. That just slows things down. All right, let's see. From Starry Eye, I just got back from Japan. Your videos have been immensely helpful for my trip. Used a Klook. Thank you so much. Couldn't use Yamato, so as I was staying in an apartment with family and couldn't receive. Yes, that's true. So if you want to ship luggage in Japan, and the big issue with staying with, let's say, an Airbnb or some type of rental house, you probably cannot ship your luggage. And the reason why is someone has to be there. So anybody who's interested in shipping their luggage to different places in Japan, make sure that they can receive a package. And usually as long as someone can pick up the phone, that'll be sufficient, because usually when the transport delivery services such as Yamato arrive, they're going to call you usually before they ring on the doorbell. Okay.
Traveling with kids is fun.
Yes, it's a non-stop adventure traveling with kids.
I'm planning to do a day trip to Hakone from Tokyo. Does it make sense to cover Mount Fuji as well as a separate day trip, or any one of those two should be good? So you have three options. You could go just to Hakone for views of Mount Fuji, but from a bit farther away. If the weather is good and you have clear skies, you could go just to the Kawaguchi Five Lakes Mount Fuji area, or you could go to both. And I have videos on all those options. I have a video that shows like what you can see in Mount Fuji if you were to spend up to 3 days there. I have a video on how to do the sightseeing loop in Hakone if you're going for just 1 day. And I have a video on a pass offered by Odaku Railway, which is a Fuji Hakone pass that's a 3-day pass, so you can combine visiting Hakone and Mount Fuji. I'll see if I can find the playlist and I can link to that playlist.
But in general, we highly recommend both those places. They're both amazing. You can spend an entire week in each of those places and still only seen a little bit of it. So we highly recommend them both.
Oh, actually, it might not be one playlist. Let me see what I can find for you. Okay, I'm going to link to a playlist that has a mix of Hakone and Mount Fuji options in it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. And from Highlander, thank you so much for the super chat. We're staying near Shimbashi Station for 5 days. Will that be enough to see the major attractions for a first timer? Most likely, yes. Again, this really depends on what you want to see and do. We've spent several months in Tokyo, and we still feel like we've only seen this much. But as far as seeing the major sites, yes, that should be enough, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think 5 days is enough to see within Tokyo. What that might not allow time for is going to amusement park like Disney Sea, or going on many side trips or day trips from Tokyo. But if you just want to see what's in Tokyo, then I think 5 days is enough. I can also link to my Tokyo itinerary video, and you could choose like any of those days that you want to include in your itinerary.
And your location, by the way, is very good. So that'll make it faster to get to a lot of places in the area.
Okay, I just dropped a link to our Tokyo itinerary, and we went out on foot and actually did all that itinerary to make sure that those days really fit within 1 day and that it's doable and organized.
Tried and tested, for sure. From Alzora CH, does Shinagawa Station have a lot of coin lockers? It has a decent amount because it is a Shinkansen station. However, if you are concerned about that, if you're going to be riding the Shinkansen, which is my guess, then I would recommend going to Tokyo Station, as there are 10 times more lockers there, if that's what your concern is about. And also, if you are riding the Shinkansen, and if this is the first time you're riding, especially if you're going to be riding non-reserve, you want to ride in Tokyo Station anyways, because you get a better chance of getting a good seat, since it originates from Tokyo and then works its way down.
And anybody interested in luggage storage in Japan, we have a video that covers coin lockers, luggage counters that store your luggage for longer, all the different options for storing luggage.
Yeah, and by the way, at Shinagawa, if you have any trouble looking for a coin locker, just ask an attendant. Sometimes they have them in hidden places as well that some people wouldn't think to look. So they might be able to find one for you if you can't find one. From Starry Eye, quick question. I didn't know how to get a refund for my Passmo card before I left. I didn't get the tourist one, but the actual one, so I guess it was a waste now. Well, it depends. If you think you might come back to Japan and their card is valid for 10 years, so you can come back within that 10-year period and that card will still be valid. As long as you use it once, you actually reset the entire 10-year process all over again. So I hope you come back.
Or if you're not going back, if you have a friend or relative who's going, then you could let them use your Passmo card.
From Ray, do you know anything about the nighttime river cruise on the Nihon Bashi? We have seen that thing go by so many times, but we personally never tried it yet either. So at some point when we do, we'll report back. Sorry, we don't have an answer for that.
Do I tell them about the Shinkansen? Okay, let me take you.
From Alex, only have 2 days in Osaka, torn to visit the Universal maybe Universal Studios. That's my guess what you're saying, and Expo, or go actually to see Osaka. Any opinions on this? So If you're planning to visit Universal Studios and Expo, I think those are excellent choices. However, then you're not really seeing Osaka. you're seeing like a separate part of Osaka. I mean, they're both fantastic, but you might want to decide either one of the two and then actually spend a day walking around Osaka, like maybe seeing the Osaka Castle as walking through Shinsaibashi, Dotonbori area, and to get a better feel of the area. But it really depends on what you want to see and do. Okay, does Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto have enough options for vegetarian food? Absolutely, absolutely. I just do a quick search on Google and you'll have no trouble finding plenty of vegetarian places, and more are popping up all the time. Okay, hi Tanya. I really have enjoyed your content. We plan to go to Japan in October. Have you been to Shirakawa-go? And do you have any tips for visiting? Number one tip, visit Ainokura first before going to Shirakawa-go if you can. That's Ainokura. It's Ainokuro. It is also one of the three Gasho style houses that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And what we really like about Ainokura versus Shirakawa-go is there's 1/10 of the people there, because Shirakawa-go has exploded in popularity, that it is insanely crowded.
We just went in the winter and we were surprised at how crowded it was. So for instance, in Kanazawa, if you were to rent a car, then you could go on your own to Ainokura. I am not saying that right correctly. It's just a little bit smaller, quieter setting.
Yeah, but Shirakawa-go, so if you plan to go, decide how you're going to get there. First of all, we're going to assume you're coming from Kanazawa. Just as an example, if you plan to take the bus, make sure you reserve that far in advance, because they sell out completely, because again, the place is so popular now.
Or if you want to get the best time spots on the bus as well.
That's true.
Because everybody's trying to get a morning bus there and the afternoon bus back. And if you're late like we are to reserve your bus, you're not going to get the best time slots available.
Correct, which means you'll have less time there. So yeah, plan accordingly. But again, the best way to see the area is to rent a car, because then you could actually visit all three of the sites if you had time too. From IH, copying your itinerary, Fuji Hakone Pass. Is it a bad idea to stay overnight near Hakone Station instead of Gora Station? I think you stayed in an onsen near Gora Station. Public transportation, okay.
The main reason that I recommend staying near Gora when doing the Fuji Hakone Pass is if you first go to Hakone, spend the night, and then you're headed towards Mount Fuji. By being in Gora, you'll be positioned and ready to go towards Mount Fuji, whereas if you stay, for instance, near Hakone Yumoto Station, you're just going to have longer to travel to get towards Mount Fuji. However, you could do it in reverse. You could go from Tokyo, pay for transportation to get Mount Fuji, use the pass within the Mount Fuji area, go towards Hakone. Then at that point, if you stayed near Hakone Station before heading back to Tokyo, that might make sense. So maybe if you just look at the maps for the passes and kind of get an idea of the area, Gora will more directly link you towards heading towards Mount Fuji.
Okay, real quick, just want to give a shout out to Suzanne. Thank you so much for the super chat. You didn't even have a question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate it.
And if anybody here is not yet subscribed, be sure that you subscribe to KENSHOQUEST and turn on the notifications.
And also, thank you, Susie. Thank you so much for the super chat. You don't have a question either, but we greatly appreciate it. Thank you. We're hoping that we are really helping you guys out. So let us know your questions in the comments.
And thank you for all those of you who go on the trip and come back and leave us comments afterwards, letting us know that our videos were helpful.
Yes.
That really keeps us motivated to keep making the videos.
Thank you so much. All right, from Katie, do you have any tips for staying and sightseeing in the countryside instead of the city?
My favorite part of Japan is Hokkaido Island in the north. And if you go in the summertime, Furano area has these beautiful lavender fields and flower fields. And we've rented an RV there, and they have really wonderful campgrounds in Japan with a lot of facilities. You know, you can have a washing machine and hot showers even when you're staying at a campground. So I do really recommend doing like an RV camping trip. Can be really nice.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful recommendation, actually. So if you plan to rent an RV, which we highly recommend, again, you need to book several months in advance. If you're planning to do like summertime now, please book it today, if as soon as possible, because again, that's one of the things that sell out really fast. Otherwise, if you cannot get rent an RV, you can also rent vans. A lot of people are renting vans to sleep in vans as well. And because of there's this thing called a michi no eki. So a michi no eki is basically similar to like a restaurant, like a trucker rest stop, but the facilities are fantastic. They always have really clean facilities where you can also take a shower if you wanted to. Plenty of restaurants, and a lot of them have locally fresh grown food too from the area.
So you can
Produce,
buy
yeah.
fresh produce.
So I highly recommend stopping at those. And the main reason I brought that up is you can sleep there too for free.
You can stay overnight in the parking lot.
And many of them also have free Wi-Fi. So that's a really nice benefit. And you know, being Japan, it's just so safe. You just will feel safe. One time we had to just pull over and park on the side of the road because we got a flat tire. And it was still perfectly safe, and you know, we felt fine.
And campgrounds in Japan often have 3 options. Like you can tent camp, or you can pay for an RV spot, or they often have really basic little cabins as well. So if you're coming as a tourist and you don't have a bunch of camping gear with you, a lot of campgrounds you can just rent a basic cabin and then use a shared restroom. So we've even camped near Mount Fuji, and that was a really great experience too.
Hi Dylan, have y'all been to Aizu-Wakamatsu? So we haven't been there yet. However, my sister was just there a couple of weeks ago, and she loved it. She said it was just it was the highlight of her trip, actually, going to Aizu-Wakamatsu. And she did. She took public transport. She took the Shinkansen from Tokyo to what is that station? I can't think of it right now. It starts with a K. But anyways, you can take the Shinkansen for the longest trek distance, and then from there she was able to take a
local train. Yeah,
she took a local train the rest of the way. But there's also buses available from that station. If I think of it, I will drop it in the chat later. So there's plenty.
You could basically do like a Shinkansen, a local train, and then once you arrive in the town, there's buses to get to the...
Yeah, so there's buses and public and local trains. So you shouldn't have any problem getting around. Because if my sister, I'm sorry, if my sister got around, no problem. I'm sure you will too. Okay. Okay, good morning or good evening, Tinashe. Hi, guys. How do you go about communicating with people in Japanese? I'm afraid that I'll get in a sticky situation where I'll ask a local a question and they'll answer in Japanese. Yes, that will happen. Don't worry about it. Just smile.
I say, sumimasen, wakarimasen.
Yes, there you go. Sumimasen, wakarimasen.
I don't understand.
Yes.
So he can speak enough Japanese that they will start responding to him in Japanese, whereas I go with as few words as possible, and I get around fine as well.
Yeah. And if you really are trying to understand anything in particular, just break out your Google Translate or whatever translator you're using, and they'll get it and they'll break out theirs as well, and you'll be able to have your conversation. So that's usually not an issue. And one of my friends right now, he's using ChatGPT. Like he arrived in Japan, you know, just like never really spent much time in here, and he went around just fine, and even ended up buying a house all through ChatGPT. So pretty amazing.
The Google Translate Lens or a similar app is also great for translating things like menus or signs. Most signage, like in the train stations, is also in English, but if you're trying to translate something written using the Google Lens.
Okay, Heidi, here's a question for you.
Staying a week in Tokyo in June, packing light, how and what are your experiences with laundry facilities and hotels? Is it always available? So it is not always available. However, when we are booking our hotel, that is something we specifically look for. So it will have in the listing whether or not there are laundry facilities. So a lot of hotels will have a small laundry room with just a couple washers and dryers, and it can get very busy. So if you wait until the end of your sightseeing day in the evening after dinner, there might be a lot of people trying to use the laundry room at the hotel. Whereas what I'll do is, like, if we have a down day where it's just to do things like laundry, after breakfast I'll use the washing machine. It's not as crowded. Also, if the laundry room at your hotel is too crowded, you can search on Google Maps coin laundry near me. So the term coin laundry is equivalent to a laundromat, and those are all over the place. So if you need to, you can go to a coin laundry as well. And I am working on a video all about washing laundry in Japan. We also do vacation rentals, so like apartment or house rentals, and we always specifically choose one with a washing machine. Dryer's not as common. You can hang dry your laundry. And there are some hotels as well where they will have a washing machine in the hotel room. What's the chain again? Is it like Toyoko or something?
Toyoko, yeah.
Can you say that?
Toyoko.
is a chain where often they have rooms with a washer in the room. So that might be a good...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, it's Tokyu.
Tokyu. Okay.
Tokyu.
Tokyu. So maybe midway through your trip, like a week in, if you were to have one of those rooms with a washing machine, that would be a good option too. But definitely recommend packing light for Japan and bringing about 1 week's worth of clothes or less with you. Because it's not fun carrying a heavy suitcase up a flight of stairs to get out of a subway station, or just dealing with heavy, bulky luggage in the train stations.
So we just got a quick shout out from Roderick from the East Bay. I'm assuming Northern California, East Bay. Anyways, I spent some time in Berkeley as well, and Heidi's from Northern California too. So
hello.
All right. Hi, Betty. Can you recommend a hotel in Hiroshima near the Peace Park? So we haven't spent a whole lot of time in the area, but we will be there next week, spending some time in the area. So we will report back on that. But I do recommend staying near there. We are looking at different hotels, and I don't want to recommend that we're staying at yet just because we haven't stayed there. So I'll let you know. We'll report back on that with a video on some ideas. But the good thing is that Hiroshima is a smaller city, and you can get around quite easily. And you can even walk quite a distance in the area, like all of the Peace Park area. And from there, you can walk to the shopping district as well from there, which is really nice. Okay, this one's from Summertime.
Okay, so any advice when traveling to Universal Studios for 1 day from Tokyo? That is doable. You could hop on a Shinkansen in Tokyo and go to Osaka Station and go to Universal. I don't really recommend doing that. I prefer staying in a hotel as close as possible to Universal Studios, because the trick with Universal Studios is to get in line super duper early. So for instance, if it's posted that it's going to open at 9:30 a.m., if Universal Studios has on a calendar that they're going to open at 9 a.m., currently they're actually opening their gates more like at 7:30 a.m. So if you're going on a day where it opens at 9, I'd say get in line at 7. And then what that allows you to do is get really quickly into places like Super Nintendo World. So it would be hard to get in line at 7 a.m. if you're starting your day all the way from Tokyo. Otherwise, if you know you're not going to be able to make it to the gate right when it opens, you might want to look into getting an express pass. Those are expensive, but it will give you specific times, for instance, to enter Super Nintendo World, specific times to ride certain rides.
Yeah, just make sure you get on the earliest train possible from Tokyo.
I'm not sure what that is, but you can look up how early the trains run.
And you're going to arrive at Shin Osaka Station. So think about how you're going to get from Shin Osaka Station to Universal Studios. It doesn't take that long, but yeah. And you want to save every minute you can so you can get in as early as possible.
Universal City Station, train station, is right close to Universal Studios, so you can take the train pretty close to it.
And thank you so much, Alex, for the super chat. Much appreciated.
Thank
you. To answer your question here, you said Fuji is a day trip from Tokyo. I plan to go from Osaka to Fuji for a 2-night, then on to Tokyo. Would you recommend just staying in the Fuji area and making a day trip of it?
To me, it's easier. It's just because the transportation around that area is kind of complicated. There's mountains, and so it doesn't make for a really quick, like, some people think they can take the bullet train, just stop off at Mount Fuji and continue, but it's really not that easy. I personally find it easier to take a day trip from Tokyo. I don't know if you have a different...
Yeah, because, well, yeah.
You can go from Osaka there, spend a night or two and continue on, but it's just going to be a little bit tricky with trains and buses.
Right. Yeah. At some point, I think we'll make a video on how people can do that, because some people are stopping along. You could stop off at Mishima Station, which is the closer one, or Odawara. Actually, more people actually stop at Odawara Station to get off, because that has a more direct route. You can take a train directly to Hakone, and then you can continue on to Fuji that way as well. But there are buses too from Mishima Station.
Yeah,
so
Mishima is more if you're going to Mount Fuji Kawaguchiko. Odawara Station on the Shinkansen is more if you're going to Hakone. Because even getting from Hakone to Mount Fuji, they're close together. It's not easy. It's a 2 or 3 hour trip on a bus.
From David, I'll be arriving at Kansai Airport, 3 days in Osaka, then we'll go to Kanazawa for 2 days, then to end in Tokyo. Would you recommend a Hokuriku Arch Pass cheaper or get normal tickets?
The Hokuriku Arch Pass might be a good idea. I think with the pass, if you're only stopping off at Kanazawa in between Osaka and Tokyo, the Hokuriku Arch Pass won't necessarily save you money. It is a 7-day pass, and we have a video about how we used it. It's meant to stop off at multiple cities along the arched route, so if you're stopping off at about 3 cities, then maybe the pass pays off, whereas you could just separately buy your tickets. From Osaka, you'd first take the Thunderbird Limited Express, which goes to Suruga Station, and then from Suruga Station to Kanazawa is already the Hokuriku Shinkansen, and Kanazawa, the rest of the way to Tokyo, is also the Shinkansen. So if you're just trying to get from those points, you might want to buy individual tickets. If you want to make it a whole 7-day trip, really exploring that area and stopping off at a few more cities, then you might want to use the pass.
Yeah, but you could also use it in Tokyo if you, like your last couple of days, if you were going to use it also to get to the airport, you could use that for that too. Okay, from Tony, we love your channel and are big fans. Question, we've heard that high fashion clothing is relatively reasonably priced in Japan. I am a 5'8" woman. Will I find clothes that fit? Is fashion cheaper?
Right now, with the exchange rate for us between US dollars and Japanese yen is really good. So that helps. It makes things in Japan feel inexpensive. But when you say 5'8", that's kind of on the taller side. The clothes do run much smaller here. So somebody who normally wears like a size small in the US might be wearing a medium or a large in Japan. And then the sizes don't go too much more than that. So I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think some stores yes, and some stores no.
Like, I'm short. I'm 5'3". Yeah, you might be okay. You might find some things just you have to try things on, see what fits.
We know a lot of people are buying clothing in Japan, both men and women.
I mean, just buying everything.
Buying everything.
Accessories, cosmetics, just because with the good exchange rate, it used to be about $1 was 100 Japanese yen when we used to travel, and now it's closer to $1 to 150.
Yeah.
It fluctuates, but it makes it feel like everything's on sale.
From Eugene, do buses in Tokyo accept IC cards, or is it only specific bus lines?
Most do, yeah.
Most. Yeah. Only a select few, and these are more like private buses, won't accept them, or if they're going to a certain destination, like certain destination buses, won't. But in general, yes, they do take them.
And if it's a local bus, like you're just going somewhere in Tokyo, yes, you pay by IC card. When you're taking what's called an expressway bus or a highway bus, so say you're going from Tokyo somewhere like Mount Fuji, those ones you have to actually purchase a ticket for.
From Suzanne, thank you for the live chat. We really want to see Studio Ghibli Museum and missed the ticket purchase window today. They sold out so fast. How else can we get tickets in for June 20? Mm-hmm. So there are a couple of ways you can try it. One is you can actually look. I would check on Klook. Sometimes they have a process where you can buy them through there, though you're going to pay a premium for them.
I think they have a package deal where it's like a hotel plus the tickets.
Yes. And then also what I would do is I would just check back, because the way ticket systems work in Japan is even if they sell out, if you cancel your reservation or change your reservation day, you have to let them know. And so things open up, because if you don't, they like ban you for life. So you have to make sure. I would check
if
back.
Somebody else canceled their reservation, it might make an opening.
Right. The third option is if you just do a search online for companies that can do this for you, because there are plenty of them that can get you tickets. And, because for instance, we have some friends that if we wanted to go, they said they could get us tickets, but it would be through a process like this here as well. Another way is the old-fashioned way is you could go to a Lawson's and possibly buy them from a Lawson, because the Lawson is actually a reseller for a lot of tickets. So that way, I don't guarantee that way, but it's worth a shot if nothing else works.
Sorry about that. It's hard to get tickets for certain things.
Studio Ghibli is really hard. It's just really hard. And, with the huge influx of tourism now, it's just everything is getting harder and harder. So our big thing now is everybody, whatever you want to do in Japan, if it's something you really want to do, try to reserve it now, if it's reservable. Is that even a word? I don't know.
Like for us, Pokemon Cafe, we tried to reserve a month in advance. We could not do it.
Right.
3 people, all on different devices, all trying to reserve right at the minute. And it was always completely booked by the time we tried to. Konnichiwa. Is it better to get a different service for a different device for a pocket Wi-Fi and an eSIM from another company?
I actually recommend that, yes. And the reason why is when you choose one from a different company, also, I would choose one that uses a different network. This might be going over most people's head, and if I apologize, but so in Japan, there's now 4 major networks. It's that you have NTT Docomo, which is the largest. There's SoftBank. There's KDDI, which is also commonly referred to as AU, and also Rakuten. But if you choose one, I would choose one that uses a different company. So for example, if you choose a pocket Wi-Fi, like say from Japan Wireless, they're going to use NTT Docomo. So then if you're getting an eSIM, you might choose one that uses SoftBank or KDDI. That way, the reason why I recommend that is that there's a better chance that you're going to cover more areas. However, if you know, like you're just going to be in cities only, then it's probably not going to make a difference, because in major cities, all of the networks are going to work perfectly fine.
And George has separate videos going into like the best eSIMs for Japan, the best pocket Wi-Fis for Japan, and video that has both as well.
All right, from Roderick, for our 25th anniversary in 2027, we're planning a trip to Japan and staying 4 to 6 weeks, starting from Tokyo and slowly making our way westbound to Hiroshima. Is this enough time?
4 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks should be enough.
Again, it really depends on what you want to plan and do. So, you have plenty of time to plan this out, and so you can figure out a route and stuff. But yeah, 4 to 6 would be fantastic, and definitely get into Hiroshima. So since you have a lot of time, I would think about your season as well, like where you want to be during that time, because weather can play a really big part in it. Like, so this year we spent a miserable winter in Tokyo, and it was miserable.
We're not
miserably cold.
Yeah. We're used to the tropics.
Yeah, we live in the tropics. Our home's in the tropics, so we're used to the weather being, 30, 33, about 90, over 90 degrees every day, Fahrenheit.
So spring is really nice, but then it's also really crowded with a lot of foreign tourists. Fall is a really nice time of year. Summer can be muggy, uncomfortable. But it is really nice when you can spend more time in a city instead of just one night in a city. At that pace, you can spend a whole week.
This is just a comment from AJ. Hi, AJ. I returned a few weeks ago from my trip to Japan. Appreciate all the videos. I'm thinking of what to do in future trips. My feet are still recovering 20,000 plus steps each day. Yes. So I just want to comment on that, because it is true. You're going to be doing so much walking.
You must bring comfortable shoes. Forget the high heels. Forget something that gives you blisters. Pack your most broken in comfortable shoes.
Right. And this is another thing we're always recommending is choose your accommodations wisely, as close to a station as possible. That will save you valuable time and save your feet too.
And if you're doing a second time, that's when we recommend going to some of the more off the beaten track. Like if you haven't done the Hokuriku Arch yet, we highly recommend that. And if you haven't been to Hokkaido, that's a really nice place as well. So just try to get away from the major cities that everybody goes to.
From Carissa, is staying in Shibuya good for 7 days and taking the Yamanote line to go to other places on that line? Oh, yeah. Shibuya is a wonderful place to stay. It's very centrally located, and you can certainly take the Yamanote line to go. But however, the Yamanote goes in a loop. If you want to go like inside and stuff like that, then you're going to also want to take the metro system as well, because that'll sometimes taking the metro will save you a lot of time versus taking the Yamanote, since again it's only a loop.
Yeah, and you can take a combination. That's why we personally just use an IC card, because it'll work on both the JR trains and the subway and metro, whereas if you get like a subway pass, it won't cover those JR trains. You'll be there close for Shibuya crossing and all the shopping.
Is staying in Shinjuku better as compared to Tokyo Station? Doing your Fuji, Hakone, and Hokuriku Arch Pass itineraries. Thank you again.
So if you're doing the Fuji Hakone, then Shinjuku, I recommend. For Hokuriku, that departs from either Tokyo or
Ueno. Right.
You can leave either from Tokyo or Ueno Station to head out on the Hokuriku Arch, but that one, it doesn't matter as much because you're just leaving. Those are both good places to stay in general. Shinjuku is best for going to Fuji Hakone. Tokyo Station is really good if you're going over towards like Disneyland.
Disneyland, Asakusa area, Sumida area.
Or getting on the Shinkansen at Tokyo Station.
Right. Yeah. We like both areas. They're both. I don't think you're going to go wrong staying in either of those locations. From Eugene, I have an iPhone 12 Pro. Can I download the Suica card on my Apple Wallet beforehand and just use it right away? Yes, I believe you can. You can install it today, right now, in your home, and I believe you can top it up right now. If the topping up doesn't work, then you could do it as soon as you arrive in Japan.
So you'll go to Apple Wallet, there's a little plus sign in the corner, and then transit card, and then you can scroll to Japan, and they have either Suica, Pasmo, or Ikoka. I use Pasmo, but you could use any of them.
From Cargo, I'm getting the Satochi JR Pass, and it says that seat reservations are not included. I also heard that all JR lines need a reservation. Does it mean I have to pay every time I use the pass?
Well, first of all, not all JR lines require reservation. Local trains you cannot reserve. And then Shinkansen have, I'm not familiar with this particular pass.
Yeah, that pass. So riding, if it says it does not include reservations, then you will have to pay for reservations. However, like Heidi said, most trains does not require a reservation. There's only a select few trains, and most of those are like Shinkansens or specialty limited express trains will require it. But almost all trains usually have a non-reserved section. So only if you wanted to ride reserved, or only if it was a specific train that said reservation only. And when you get your pass, you can ask, or you can also look on the JR West website. They have a list of the passes there, and it should say which ones are included, and it should also say specifically whether or not it is reserved or non-reserved.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not familiar with that specific pass.
From David, my family and I would love to go to Kurobe Gorge. Do you recommend we stay at Kanazawa? Yes. Yes, absolutely. We think that's a great location from it, especially, because it's a very short ride. If you take the Shinkansen from, it's, I think, less than 30, well, it takes longer. So you take the Shinkansen up to Kurobe Unazuki Onsen Station, and then you got to go inland from there. So, it takes about an hour and a half to get to the gorge, but for places to stay, Kanazawa is a great launching point for many of those places along the coast in that area.
And there's a lot of hotel options in Kanazawa. We have a video specifically on how to get to Kurobe Gorge.
Is Kamakura and Enoshima a good option for a day trip, even if I'll be in Kyoto later for 7 days? Will I be templed out?
I think from Tokyo, Kamakura and Enoshima is a good day trip.
It's definitely a good day. It's definitely a very good day trip. However, being templed out, you might be possibly, because Kyoto is just going to be more and more and more temples. So
I feel like Kamakura is different though, and I like the setting in the area. I would still recommend doing a day trip from Tokyo to Kamakura. We have a video on the best day trips from Tokyo, and we included it in there.
Yeah, and it's certainly one of our favorite places too.
I feel like it has a different feeling than what you see in Kyoto, but I like temples and.
From Patrick, how intimidating is it traveling around Tokyo and Osaka while not speaking the language? Also, do you recommend TeamLab's Borderless or TeamLab Planets? Thank you.
I think it's fine. Like, the signs at the train stations are in English. Once you kind of get the system and understand the trains, like I use Google Maps on my phone, and it will tell you what line to take, what platform to go to, and then there's also signage on the platform saying what time the train's coming at. So I get around fine with very, very minimal Japanese.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. I just make sure you have Google Translate or a different translate app on your phone. And if you're using Google Translate, I recommend that you download the Japanese language pack ahead of time, just in case if you don't have an internet connection, some of the features will still work. And use Google Lens as well. And just bow and say sumimasen a lot for excuse me, and arigato gozaimasu. Yes, and you'll be just fine. As far as TeamLab Borderless or TeamLab Planets, it really depends. Well,
I'm Borderless, he's Planets.
For me, Planets, they're both fantastic. We've been to both multiple times, and they're both really, really good.
We like them all. Also, we've been to the one on Osaka. We like that as well. We'll probably be going to one in Fukuoka
very soon too. Yeah.
I really like Borderless. You can draw a sea creature and it'll swim around on the walls. And then he likes Planets because it's kind of more immersive. However, if you're going to Planets, be aware of things like you're going to be getting your feet wet up to about your knees. So be prepared in what you're wearing. Be prepared for there to be mirrors on the floor.
And if you do go to Planets, I recommend you go at night. And the main reason why is they have an outdoor area where they have these space-shaped eggs where you just don't get the effect during the daytime. Whereas at night they get lit up and stuff. And if it's bright, you won't even notice. You'll go out there and be like, it'll be kind of like a disappointment, I feel like.
I think we recommend going at 9 a.m. in our itinerary video.
Yeah, I mean,
you can also go first thing in the
true.
morning before it gets too crowded.
That's true. Yeah, because it will be crowded. I mean,
for both of those, buy your tickets in advance because they do tend to sell out. You can't just show up on the day and buy tickets.
From Justin, any preference on Nikko or Hakone for a day trip in May?
Both are nice. I think I like Hakone. You might see Mount Fuji if the skies are clear. To me, it's kind of a nice nature setting. Nikko's nice too.
Yeah.
The transportation is a little bit farther and longer to get to things once you get to Nikko.
Yeah, Nikko is a little bit more, I would say transportation is a little more longer, and you're going to be doing a lot of walking. And the main difference to me is Nikko, massive crowds, which wherever you're going, you're going to go to Toshogu Shrine, and it's just, while it's incredible, it's so beautiful, there's just a gazillion people there. So take that into consideration, whereas Hakone is more spread out, so there's less people, though it can still be crowded, it's nowhere near as crowded as Nikko.
Personally, for either of those, I recommend an overnight trip. We've stayed overnight in Nikko, and that makes it easier the next morning to get to places since you don't have to travel to Nikko. And then I also have a video of why I prefer an overnight trip for Hakone as well.
Okay, Katie, is Kanazawa a super crowded or over touristy place these days?
I didn't feel so. I mean, there's lots of things for tourists to do, from Kenroku Garden to museums to Samurai District. But I don't feel that it's overcrowded. Right. Yeah, it's going to feel a bit more of a breath of fresh air compared to Tokyo.
Yeah. For the next 10 years, Kanazawa is still going to be a really great place to see without the massive hordes of crowds like in Kyoto and stuff. And it's one of our favorite places because of that.
Just anywhere that's not Tokyo, Kyoto, or Osaka is going to be less crowded.
If you want to go to another place that's really less touristed and just amazing, is Matsumoto. Highly recommend Matsumoto.
We have a video about what to do in Matsumoto. So both Kanazawa and Matsumoto are good if you're doing the Hokuriku Arch.
All right, we are
running close to the time limit here.
We'll go 5 more minutes, just because there's still a lot of questions here, but we're probably not going to get to them all. I'm sorry.
Again, if we don't answer your question, you can ask a question on any of our videos that are already on our channel.
Okay, from D, any favorite shops, restaurants, stores in Tsukiji Market? So we don't have any favorites, and the main reason why is, I hate to say it, but it's not our favorite place to go just because it is so crowded and we feel like the prices are highly, highly inflated. Now it is really just turned into a major, major tourist trap. With that said, there is a lot of good food there. It's just that expect to pay, a lot more than you would in other places, and be ready for the crowds. If you're going to go, I recommend going early in the morning. So I think the best time to go is when you just arrive in Japan and you're going to wake up early anyways, go there early, like right when they open. And sorry, again, I don't have any specific recommendations for Tsukiji Market. From Joyce, going to Kamakura end of November for autumn colors, suggestions where to stay. In Kamakura, I am not really so familiar with the accommodations there. However, I would recommend that you stay in Yokohama, which is very nearby, and there's a lot of great accommodations right on the waterfront. And it's just a beautiful place as well. And it's a very short train trip from Yokohama to Kamakura. And it will just be absolutely stunning in Kamakura at the end of November, I'm sure. So
I love Yokohama. It's really nice coastal area. It's nice to walk around and go shopping.
Yeah, and our sister just visited there, and she said it was one of her favorite places too during her visit. So yeah, Yokohama, very underrated, I would say. From Jacob, hello, in your opinion, is it worth going through the trouble of renting a car to explore Kyushu, or is public transportation more ideal? So honestly, we don't have a lot of experience in the Kyushu area. It's been a while since we've been there. We will be there next week, though.
We'll be going by train.
Yes.
We're using a train pass.
So you can certainly get around with public transportation for sure, based on the research that we've done, and we're going to be using it extensively while we're there as well. Renting a car, we talked about that a little before. If you do plan to rent a car, just make sure you do it in advance so you can get a car, and make sure you have an international driver permit. But as far as exploring around, it might be a good way, especially if you plan to go farther south, like some people are visiting the gorge, the Takachiho Gorge, and that would be the easiest way if you plan to go there, because otherwise you have to take public transportation. And by the time you get there, what I've heard is if you haven't reserved, to ride the boat, you're just not even going to get a chance for that. Again, that has to be done in advance. But in some places, I think definitely farther south, renting a car would be a good idea. But going to Nagasaki, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Same with Fukuoka and Oita. I don't think that's going to be a problem taking public transportation, which is what we will be doing.
Yeah, you can take trains to all of those.
Yeah.